Welcome today to our podcast. Welcome, Miss Melody. Good to see
Welcome,
you.
welcome, 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 my sister. Welcome,
Welcome.
my sister. Yes, just want to encourage each person that's listening that you can arise. So, welcome to She Arises because we rise together. That is always my intro, my outro. That we can, in fact, rise together.
Yes, we can. Yes, we
So
can.
even today, as I was saying, that I just really, coming to the close of the year, that we always wait to make the New Year's resolutions as far as, oh, I'm gonna lose weight, or I'm gonna go to gym, or I'm gonna go back to school, I'm gonna finish my degree, whatever your, resolution may be. And then usually 3 months in to the new year, we either fall apart or we slack off. So the challenge today is, can we be intentional as far as and purposeful? That was purposeful and intentional to just focus on what you desire. And the sky's the limit. That's one of the things that I want to encourage each person, that we put a ceiling on what we can accomplish. And you always say, oh, they say. Who is they?
I can't believe you said that. I always say that. My best friend, if you're watching this, Dana, I love you. But she'll always say, they say. And me and her husband are always like, who's they? Who's
Who say?
they?
Yes.
Even
Because
with the
I would
weather,
love to
they say it's
find
going to
they.
rain. Who's they?
Yes, I would love to find they and be like, but
So my
it's
thing is, you were saying that like people, after 3 months or whatever, they fall out of that resolution. I would give your friends a lot more credit than the people I know. We usually fall out of our resolution after like week three. I'm like, we're at
oh
week three. Uh, because usually we make these unrealistic goals. So
yes,
let's say weight is an issue for you, right? So then you wind up saying, okay, this year I'm going to lose weight. What does that mean? So
right.
you're really not defining a goal for yourself. You're just
No,
making an overarching um thought that
unrealistic,
it's
unrealistic.
unrealistic. And what
Yes,
if you have to lose 80 pounds? Like that's just such a big feat. So I say to students often, I'll tell them, let's say you're one of those people that have to lose 80 pounds or something astronomical, 50 pounds. Instead of looking at it like I have to lose 80 pounds, look at it as I have to lose 8 pounds. And then when you get to 8 pounds, celebrate that. And then you have to lose eight
yes,
pounds. When you do
yes.
that, celebrate that. Then I have to lose 8 pounds. So you're making a bunch of smaller goals to get to the top. And I started doing that. I'm going to give credit to my friend Candace from years ago. I'll never forget the kids like destroyed the house. And I just like sat there and I just like, I was overwhelmed and I started crying. And I'm like, I feel like I have so much to do. I don't know where to start. And she was like, make a number for yourself, like 10. And every day, make sure you do 10 things. And that's it. If you do
Yes,
more than that, great. But you're gonna do 10 things and like 10 little things, like clean up these toys, things
right.
like that. She's like, and sure enough, everything will be together sooner than you think. And
Sooner or later, yes.
it's
Because
the
that
truth.
is, I think, one of the key tools that we need to use in life is celebrate my small victories. Just
Mhm.
celebrate them. And I'm launching a new business, coming up. And if kind of one moment felt like it was overwhelming, like, oh, how can I do that on top of everything else I'm doing? And it was like, that old cliche, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And it's like, okay, yes. And so it just helped me compartmentalize things that I needed to do. I'm going, of course, I told you, going back to school, starting a new business. Okay, it's just, and it's like getting the training for that. It was all of that, that it just felt like, the mounting was, so massive. And it was like, wait a minute, if I just do one thing a day, I'm one step closer. And then celebrate that. Okay, I
Yep.
was able to do this today. Yay, me.
And a lot of us, like, I think even giving each other grace, like like last Friday, I couldn't remember if we had the thing or not. I literally said to you, I can't remember if we were supposed to meet today or not. If we're not, no big deal. And like today, I needed an extra, you were like, why don't we meet at 2? Like, so you gave me an extra half hour. So have grace with each other. I think sometimes we have in our head, like, even with counseling, if somebody has to cancel me, a lot of therapists, you have to still pay if you cancel because that is their, slot or whatever. It could
Time.
have been somebody
Yes.
else. But if I have somebody and something's going on and they're like, look, I don't want to cancel. I just want to, could we meet in half hour later or something? If I could do it, I'd do it.
Sure, why not?
You know what I mean?
Let me
Just,
let me share this story with you. It's so funny. There was a young lady that kind of used to be in my circle. And, she kind of struggles with depression. So she's kind of like the pendulum. And and even with that, as I'm saying that, you have to choose how far you let people in your life. Okay? Because their situation cannot become yours or affect you. You have to have boundaries. We will always talk about boundaries. So with this young lady, it was an event that was happening in her life. I think it was a birthday or something like that. And her name kept coming up just in different conversations with different people. So I knew that God was putting her on my heart. And so the flesh side of me was like, she all right. And I wanted to keep on going. And all of a sudden I just stopped. And I said, now, she is a big event person, birthday, Christmas, whatever, it could be New Year's Eve. And that is what drives her. So now, does it cost me anything to just send her a salutation? No. So I had to be the bigger person and grow up and say, hey, just because you bumped that's my line, bumped your head, just because you bumped your head and decide to opt out of my life, God always lets things happen like that for a reason. Because everybody that is with you right now cannot reach the altitude that God wants to take you to. I hope somebody caught that everybody that's with me at this level of life cannot go into my future. And God has a way of weaning those people off because they can't handle the altitude he's trying to take you to.
Okay, so that
don't
was
feel bad.
awesome. That was awesome. What about people? So it's funny. I can't believe it. Whenever we talk, I'm always like, was she listening to my conversations yesterday?
I
Like stuff like
totally
that.
am.
Right. I'm like, what's going on? So my mom and I were talking yesterday and she raised me and she agrees, like, because she has a hard time too. Like, if you have somebody toxic in your life or somebody that just causes you pain over and over again, like, why do we continue to let that person in our life?
Yes.
So sometimes it's because they're family and you want to make sure that, you don't make it awkward for other family members at the next birthday or wedding. But my thing is on that, like, so on the personal relationship, why do you keep getting so close to this person that at least hurt you bad, at least twice a year, like bad, bad. So she always raised me that with relationships, that there's ups and downs and you just work at it and blah, blah, blah. And we realized that that was part of her culture, that that's not necessarily what you have to do. Sometimes,
Yeah.
like, my husband taught our kids way different. And I'm so glad he did. Like, people, he goes through cycles of friends. Like, some people make the cut to the next round and some
Come
people
on.
don't. But I wish I would have been raised like that. So if you are a young person and you're listening, even if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, you're listening to this,
It
you don't
still
have
happens in
to.
their 50s too. Yes.
And 70s. I was
Woo.
just talking to my mom about this. I was like, you don't have to keep a friend in your life, because what'll happen is that friend will come back and they'll use all, like, they'll have a makeup session and then talk about all these memories from childhood and this, that, and the other. So now you guys feel real close again. But then 2 minutes later, it's like stabbing. Like, why are you still
Yeah.
doing this? What
Because
are
they
you
haven't
doing?
changed. They have not changed. And the reality is, though, something that I like to teach, some of our clients, as far as they have not proven to you that they should regain access to your life to that degree. Now, you can let them in if you're like, okay, I just want to be a social friend, but you don't have to be in my inner circle. And see, that's where you have to realize everybody is not a friend. They may be an acquaintance. And
Yeah.
it's okay to love them at a distance. I don't
Yes.
have to you don't have to come home with me. We don't have to do lunch. We don't have to do none of that. I love you at a distance and I'm good with that, because now you have to prove to me that you can be trusted in more intimate space with me. Why would I repeatedly, thank you, why would I repeatedly let you abuse me or take advantage of me or suck me dry for my time, my wisdom, my energy, and you don't deserve it.
So
So
how do
there is
you
a
how do you
value
get away
system.
from that? Like, what if you're stuck in that cycle?
You are. And I've been in there. It's called a people pleaser.
Yeah, I
You know,
know,
we
that's me.
Yeah, we've all done it. I call it, it's like the middle child syndrome. You're trying to find your
Yep.
space in the family. It's all those things. And we all have repeated it. But then I had to give myself grace to realize what my value was. And when I know what my value is, I value giving it differently.
You're right.
Because when I don't value it, you just give, 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 give. And people take, 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 because you haven't taught them how to treat you.
Yeah, we said that before, right? We teach people how
Yes.
to treat us. No,
Yes.
you're right about that. I love that. I love that. So I think that, like you said before, we could put boundaries on these people.
Yes.
So, you don't have to let them back in 100%, but you also don't have to cut them out either. Sometimes
Exactly.
people don't realize that that's the same thing and that they're both just as dysfunctional as the other.
Yes.
So You know what I mean?
Yes.
So being too
And
close or being cut off, it's the same thing. They're both very
it is
dysfunctional.
because they oftentimes have to have that wake up call. There was something that was posted that was so good. It was in comparison to the Empire State Building, that if you're standing at the door of the Empire State Building, you don't realize, you know, the value, the splendor of it because you're right on top of it. But as you disconnect or come away from it, talking about parallel relationships, you now begin to appreciate and see the splendor of it that you took advantage of one time. So
Mm.
you look at that as far as a relationship. They're in the relationship, not really realizing the value that you brought to their lives. But when you allow them to take that distant step, because now you have said, okay, you put them on timeout. That's what I put it. You don't have to make it clinical. Put them on timeout. Experience the absence of your presence. God, that was just good. And
That
then
was
once
good.
they experience the absence of your presence, then they'll be saying, you know, hey, I miss that. And now they want to gravitate. No, because now you've got to regain entrance and permission to my life. But sometimes people need to miss you to
You're
appreciate you.
right. And if they don't, so wait, what happens to the person who does that or takes this advice and they're waiting and waiting and waiting and the person doesn't come
Then
back?
that means they cannot handle the altitude that God is trying to take you to. And it is a blessing in disguise. It may be painful because I mean, I've lost friends that I thought like, oh my goodness, girls from high school, you're gonna be in my life forever. We don't even talk.
Hmm.
But at the time when I was going through it, they were like, oh, they was like my BFF. But it's like, okay, that there is nothing that we miss out on. Everything in life is cyclical. That person was preparing you for the true person that God has in your life. So you get caught up on the one person, but it is the image of the person that you appreciated, what they brought to the table, their wisdom, their humor, their flexibility, their dependability, their reliability. Those are the concepts that you really valued. And you will be able to identify that in someone else that will value you in return.
Where do
I
people
would say
find people?
I would say don't box yourself in one and look in your nucleus, your own community. So whether it's, your immediate circle, whether it's your church circle, whether it's your gym, whether it's your job, and I've seen people that they're hungry for relationship because they're missing out on something. I've seen, and they're needy, they're needy. So you have to, one, be mindful of your environment and don't be afraid to let someone new in, but
Mm,
you vet them just like a job, you vet them. So
absolutely.
you don't just let them all in and like, oh, let's, and then you realize they're a knucklehead. No, you vent people, take it slow, listen to their conversations because people always reveal who they truly are, and it's up to us to believe them.
Mm,
If you have seen them do that to someone else, as far
they'll
as,
do it to you.
come on, if they're constantly talking about someone else, they're going to talk about you.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
they're
yeah.
always
My mom always
judging,
said that.
because it's true. If
It
they're
is
always
true.
judging someone else or critical of someone else, they're going to be as critical about you. And so there's this one girl, she was just on and on. She's talking about everybody. I said, my goodness, what do you say behind my back? And she busted out laughing because it
You
was true. It
said
was just,
that?
yes, because it was an
I
aha
love that.
moment for me. I'm like, you're, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And I just said, okay. So my mommy said, dog, bring a bone, carry a bone. In other words, if you're saying it about me, you're saying it about someone else and
That
vice
is so
versa.
true. That
Yeah,
is so true. And like we said before, if somebody will do it with you, they'll do it to you. So even
absolutely.
talking about cheating, if somebody's like, "Oh, I've never cheated before," you're the first, whatever. Even if it's after 30 years, in 30 years, you're going to be to the side of the curb too.
Go ahead.
You know what I mean?
So
Like,
I always love that when you see the paradigm as far as like the husband cheats, leaves the wife, now marries you, and now you think that, oh, he would never do that to me. It's like, girlfriend,
and they
please. If
do.
he did it with his other one, it's like you were a practice run. It's like,
Also, so I did want to, I'm glad that we brought this up because I did from other episodes. I feel like when I re-listen to them, because when I edit, I have to listen to them often. So I'll re-listen to parts over and over again. So I noticed that we talk a lot about cheating and about how people like, once you cheat, it's like you're done, da da da. Why don't we discuss about because I do think that there is room for forgiveness because we've talked about forgiveness too. It's just growing up in our Italian heritage. It was normal to have what they called a gumad. So that's your girlfriend. So you have your wife and your family. that you were with all week, and then your gumad you seen on the weekend. So, but it was like known. So your wife knew that it's the weekend that you're going with your gumad, and your gumad knew not to call you during the week because you're with your wife. I'm like,
Yes.
that doesn't even make sense. But if you grow up and that's your reality, and that's all you know, even with
It
my first
becomes your
boyfriend,
norm.
it becomes your
Yes, it
norm.
becomes
My
your norm.
first boyfriend, same thing, came from the same type of background. And I remember his mom saying, "Oh, hun, they all do it."
Yes.
Necessarily true.
No, that is so, so good because I just had this conversation with a young man that was from Africa, and he was talking about how many wives they're allowed. And it's like the culture. And I said, okay, so now we want to conform, quote unquote, to the culture as opposed to, and my mind with him, because he was a believer, was as opposed to the word of God. Now, the word of God is very clear and it talks about it now. You talk about the Old Testament, there were different times and structure. So when you're going to do a study, you have to study the culture of why it was allowed and why it was acceptable and so forth. I said, but that's not the times that we in. So we get stuck in culture because it's something that we want to do, or we get, I love the way you said it, it's acceptable in this culture. But now I can only go to court with one wife. So now,
Yes.
you're looking at the law versus
If you're on
culture.
your deathbed, they only let one wife in.
Come on. And listen, only one's going to bury you.
Exactly. Only one's allowed to marry you.
Come on.
Only one's
And only
legally allowed
and
to
only
marry you.
one's gonna bury you. Okay, you got
Yeah.
one to marry you, you got one to bury you. So, but keep in mind because we came up in, the man's world, that it made sense for them because it was convenient for them. But there was no one that ever took the time to ask the wife, okay, well, how do you really feel about this? We just conformed and we talked about being the chameleon. We talked about multifaceted, that it's like, okay, now listen, if she's in here busting the bubbles with me, doing the laundry with me, burping the babies, if she's in here as a sisterhood, I may feel a little different about that, but that's not the case. Now, if she's just a sugar daddy and he getting some on the side, then I'm looking like, nah, I think I'm good.
But if she
So
comes over and helps me with the
yeah,
kids,
yeah, yeah.
maybe
She
it's all
got
right.
if she wants it, she needs to get the whole piece of the pie with me. Okay.
That
She
is
needs to
too
be in there
funny.
stirring and mixing and mixing and stirring. Add butter, honey. No, add more cinnamon. That if we're doing this thing together, then let's do this thing together. But if you're just getting the side piece, I got a problem with it. That's just me.
That is so funny. No, I do too. If Ryan had like multiple wives somewhere, that would not be okay.
No,
But it is still acceptable. My
it
sister-in-law is
is.
from Guinea, and she always talks. She tells me stories that make my head spin.
Right.
That
And
still
see,
happen today.
and when I listen to, because I love, because we stand on tall shoulders. I love to listen to the women of old that had the wisdom, but they were molded different. They were, the stay-at-home moms. They were dependent on the man to supply, their everything, the shelter, the food. They just raised the kids. It was a different dynamic. Now we as women, we are not only educated, but then we're resourceful. We are, homeowners ourselves, that we are go-getters, entrepreneurs. So it is totally a different shift that we're living in now, as opposed to that we don't have to settle. Most of the women that we're talking about had to settle because they didn't have a skill set to do anything else.
Well, there's some
Mom,
people that have to settle for their culture. I was just talking to somebody at Holy Family, a student, and we were talking about her hijab that she was wearing.
yes,
And we were very open. Like she was asking me questions about the seven fishes. Like, so we were both asking each other about their cultures. And this young woman is not even 20 years old. And she already knows that she shouldn't even, because I remember this boy walked in and he looked at her like she's got these beautiful eyes. So when he left, I said something like, "Oh, he was looking at you." I'm American. That's what we say, right? To
yes,
her, that was almost uncomfortable. And I had to realize that I'm not her, that we're different. So I
yes.
asked her, I said, "I'm sorry. Like, I realized, what I did." And she said, "No, no, no, it's not you." She's like, "It's just uncomfortable because she said, this is going to sound crazy." And I said, "No, trust me, I've heard crazy. Like, whatever you're going to tell me is not going to sound crazy." But here in her family, and she's living in America, 20 years old, and she knows that when it's time for her to get married, which is in the next couple of years, that her parents, she'll go
Well,
back to where they came from.
yes, yes.
She'll get married there and then apply for the citizenship for that man. But here she never meets him in
Nope,
between.
nope. And
So we keep
I've gone
saying
to,
of the old days, but some of it is still
yes.
today.
Yes, because some people are grounded, rooted in their traditions. And I do understand the concept of it because it's like sometimes Western America wants to cancel out your heritage. And I think that's a way of them holding on to their identity of who they are. And
Mm.
you hold on to those traditions. So I understand it because, it's just arranged marriages is what they are. And so,
So
arranged marriages,
I asked her, I said, so what happens if like you just, I said, what happens if you like, I said, all 20-year-olds defy their parents in some way, like they're going to Susie's house, but really they go see, Jacob or whatever. I said, like, what happens if you find somebody here or you really start to like, and she said that she said, and I couldn't believe this. I don't know her name, but when I figure it out, I totally give her credit for this. She said in her culture, that it comes down to you either have to leave your man for your family or leave your family for your man.
yes. And that is a decision that you're thinking like a 20-year-old has to make.
Could you
But because
imagine?
of the pressure
But could
that
you
she's
imagine
under,
either having to choose Mike or
yes,
your family?
yes. But it's the pressure that you're under to conform. That this is what we believe, this is what we do, and you're going to honor that. And it's really rooted in honor. Do you honor the tradition? Do you honor what we've raised, how we've raised you up? Do you honor that? And then she's going to choose the family because she does honor it. It's all she knows. What did we just say
So
before?
how can she like, I don't know. I guess she just has to wait for the next generation to break
Yes,
those. So, but then
yes,
that's a shame for her. What does that mean for her life?
I know. But once again, that is going to be a choice that she's going to have to make to realize, and most of them do not make that individual choice. It is a choice
No.
for the family. We see that in Asian cultures, we see that in the Jewish cultures, we see that in the Muslim cultures, that the weight is on the family. The family is first. I do not make a decision as an individual. I make a decision for the family. What's best for the family. And I
So it's
honor
that
that.
collectivism instead of
Yes,
individualism, which is
yes,
totally different.
yes,
So if
yes,
somebody's listening to this and you don't understand exactly what it is we're saying, in Western cultures, we're very individualistic, where we're like, Miss Melody is a great pastor, like she's the best, or I'm like a great professor, I'm the best, or so we try to figure out like what are we the best at. But in a lot of Eastern cultures, it's not about individualism, it's about collectivism. So where do I fit in this role? And how do I help us as a team make it to the next level instead of me make it to the next level?
yes,
So I guess
yes,
that must be so hard to live or have your parents live and be raised in a collectivist culture, then come to the United States where we're very individualistic and have those. So I wonder how they even think of us. They must think, oh, I don't even know.
So
That's
we're
a whole
so
story.
do we think we're so self-serving? They're looking like, oh, that's all about we're so self-serving. And to a degree we are,
Hmm.
because once again, we have conformed to the culture that we're in. We are.
Yep.
That it takes us a moment to step back and to begin to think, I call it globally, as far as what I bring to the world, as opposed to what can I do for myself individually.
Do
So,
you know that
and it
there's still
is.
places that do female circumcision?
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Wait, let me rewind that. That do female mutilation.
Yes,
They call it female circumcision, but it's not, it's mutilation.
it is.
And my sister-in-law, where she's from in Africa, they still do it. And at first I was like, okay, I was because I always try to put myself in the person's shoes and in their culture to see like how I would handle it. And with the girl the other day with the marriage, I felt like if I put myself in her shoes, I understand and I probably would. I'm just being honest. I would probably, give up love for my family. So I would just marry whoever they said was good for
Yep,
me because
yep.
that's how I was raised. However, with my sister-in-law, I was thinking about it and I'm like, oh gosh, like what is like, so I tried to like jump into the culture of female mutilation because it's not circumcision. So and boys get circumcised here at birth, not all of them, but a lot do. But girls do not. And in other countries, people are still doing what they call female circumcision, but it's not, it's female mutilation. And if you Google, there used to be a show called Taboo, but if you Google female circumcision or mutilation and taboo, there was old episodes and there's even old episodes about boys going through puberty. But with the girls, they literally go through different cycles of um, mutilation. So the first cycle, they cut off their clitoris. And this is the thing. So this one I could not get down with. I was like, I could not, I would have to leave my family. I'm sorry. But then again, you're only 13 when this happens or whatever. So can you really leave anywhere because you don't know any
Right.
better? But it winds up being like a whole thing. It's almost like it reminded me of like my first Holy Communion. Like you have like a big party and everybody like praises you that you got to like, you did your communion, but this is different. So the way I was thinking of it was like my first Holy Communion. Then I looked it up and I was like, it is nothing. There is no dancing. There's no DJ. There's not family with cards with money in it. None of that. There's no beautiful white dress and, church. It is nothing like that. I didn't realize that this isn't something that's done at like, Cooper Medical Center. This is done in a village
Yes.
in dirt by an
Yep.
elder. They
Yep.
show this elder pick up this razor blade from the side, just picks up this razor blade. It was disgusting. And like, so there's no like washing off your hands and putting your fingers in the gloves. Like, it's nothing like that. And some of the girls die from
Yes.
infection.
Yep.
And when they die from infection, instead of seeing it as, oh, maybe we need to be healthier in our practices, they
No.
see it as a defect of the girl.
Yeah. She was
Like,
unclean or she was
yeah.
something. Yeah.
Or maybe she did something before and she's just lying to us and that's what. But so there's always a way to, I guess,
Justify it.
rationalize,
Justify it. Yes.
or justify the behavior, and but that doesn't make it right.
No. No.
And her mother was that was one of her biggest reasons for getting to America. Her mother did not want her to go through. There's three different stages. So the first stage, they cut off your clitoris. The second stage, they sew up your labia minora, and the third stage, they sew up your labia majora, and they sew everything up. So even when you get your menstrual cycle, they leave a tiny little thing, but not even like, so they close it up. And the point is that when you get married, it's a gift for your husband to break through it. Could you imagine?
No.
Like, what kind of wedding gift is that?
Really.
And but
Okay.
that's also a way that the husband knows if they're pure.
Okay. Listen, he just ain't gonna find out. Okay. I'm like, if I have to go through all that, it's talking about, hey,
But I look at it this way too. So, and I'm not, but so forget my sister-in-law, but even friends of hers that have even had the first part done and then made it to America, that even like changes their life here because if without a clitoris, I don't know if people know this, but a clitoris and a penis they have the same nerve endings. So it would almost be like cutting off a penis and then having the male just go through life. I don't know. People don't realize that it's so you're cutting off pleasure. So I was thinking about it and I'm like, why would they do this? Because there's reasons why we do our Holy Communion and stuff, but like, what's the point of this? And when I thought about it, I'm like, it's to keep women from cheating. If you don't have a clitoris and you don't feel pleasure, then you're less likely to cheat on me.
yeah.
Right? Like if
Listen, the way that some things we just will never be able to explain because when whoever came up with this, that at the time made sense to them. So you think about it, back in the day when they thought the world was flat, okay? Whoever came up with that concept, that was their truth at the time. But
perception's reality.
and so even though it was totally false, that they still acted upon the reality when we say, of course, because my perception is my reality.
Mm-hmm.
So
Even when
even
it's
though
not
it was
real.
wrong, that until they get knowledge to understand, the Bible even says, our people perish for the lack of knowledge.
Mm,
Okay, that we fall, we stumble, we
that's
make
so
mistakes
right.
for the lack of knowledge. So people have done things for years, slavery, all of the things. You talk about the Holocaust. Things were done because of no lack of knowledge. And so here we are talking about the same conversations now, that things are still happening, that barbarism, because of the lack of knowledge.
And it's not, and for some people, you could turn it the opposite way and say that it also could be due to a group of people that had knowledge that manipulated the knowledge that they
Oh yeah.
had. So that goes on both sides, right? So in one end,
Yes.
it's a lack of knowledge, but it's because we're not letting you. If I don't let you learn how to read, you're not going to be able to read a
No, you
book
can't
that,
advance.
no,
You
you can't
can't
advance.
advance.
Like,
You right.
no,
I
right.
hide the truth from you in plain sight. That
Yes.
if I limit you or I cap you, remember we opened up talking about ceilings being over us. That I want to be purposeful, intentional, and remove the ceilings that are off my life that once sometimes I put on myself. Oh, I'll never be able to do that. Oh, I can't do that. Well, who do I think I am? No one ever did it in my family. That is a ceiling. That is a cap that we have put on ourselves to limit us from thinking that we can be more than what we are.
So then that's great. So then going back to that, right? We started with New Year's resolutions. So I guess one of the points is that why wait to New Year's to make a resolution? If you feel like there's something in your life that you need to upgrade or educate yourself about or whatever it is, do it in July, do it in November,
Yes.
do it when
Do
you don't need to
do it
wait until
today. Do it
Yeah, do it
today.
today. Right. It doesn't have to be, the first of the year. And like we said before, most people that make New Year's resolutions don't stick to them past a couple months anyway.
No,
So it's better to do it when you feel that you're into
yes,
it, you know?
yes. And now even when with saying that, I heard someone just say like, how? First thing, I'll take my business for example, because it's something that, I'm not really familiar with.
I can't wait
It's
to hear all about it after we hang up with this.
Yes. Well, I'm just gonna just say as far as it because I'm gonna let them follow my journey as far as how. So it's cosmetic tattooing. So it's called SMP. So you've got the brows, the line, the lips, the whole nine. Okay. So I'm doing that. I'm excited about it. I'm getting all my training done now. But I said,
Get out.
now I have
Girl,
no tattoos.
if you need like a
Yeah.
muse to
My
practice on,
oh girl, listen, I'm gonna fab you out. But
I have
I
no
love the
eyebrows.
idea.
If you want to practice on me, go
Yes.
for it.
So that's it. So I said, okay, now how am I going to do all this? And first, write a plan. Said people perish for lack of knowledge, but we also perish because we don't have a plan. Okay, so
You're
write the vision, make it plain. So this is how I'm going to start, and you just start. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do, I build every day an hour of practice. I have to practice. Only way to practice is going to make me better, right? So I can't just say, oh, it's a fad. Same thing, losing weight. Okay, that was one of my goals. I said I wanted to lose weight. Boom, did it. I said, because what did I do? I said, all right, I want to commit that every other day I'm in the gym. I'm watching what I'm eating. I said, I had to have a plan to do it. I accomplished it. So it's
you
like,
did.
okay, so fine. Right
Right.
now I'm at my ideal weight. And so I just came from the gym today and I said, the way I ate for Thanksgiving, I better keep on working out. But once again, how to obtain the goal I'm setting for myself. We get the New Year's resolutions, you'll sign up for the gym and then you don't go in the door. Don't think it's going to work for you, baby.
Mm-mm.
Make a plan. So I set alarms. I have alarms going off every time we meet.
Me too.
I set an alarm because I know that my day will get by me. And I strategically try and make sure that I'm up and out of the bed by 8 a.m. because I've got to start my day. I've got to redeem the time. So if I'm up and moving by 8 o'clock, by the time I said I hit the gym already, okay, so it's 9:30, I still have the whole day to do all the other things that I need to do. God has given us 24 hours. He didn't give us 26 because he knew we could only handle 24, that everything I need to do today can be done in my 24 hours. So let's set goals. Let's set and celebrate our small victories. That's my tip
Absolutely.
for today.
And then there's other people like me, right? That I think, that are up all night. I was up till 5 o'clock this morning or five
Yes,
thirty or
and she
six
still
o'clock.
looks great. Still
Oh,
look great.
thanks. See, but I still set my alarm today and I made a commitment. So I think that's a big thing. I think we too often let our kids commit to things and then when they don't want to do it, just tell them it's okay to, but that's not okay. So if you're ever listening to this, and I've always done this with my kids, and I feel like now that they're not that they're adults, they're 20 and almost 16, but they're getting older. I noticed, for example, my daughter a long time ago told my mom she would help her with the meatballs for the Skittle soup. I got to give you some Skittle soup. It's to die
Oh,
for. The
okay.
Italian wedding soup. It's got the meatballs. Oh, it's so good.
Yes.
But anyway, so she asked my daughter if she would help her roll because there's like a million meatballs. They're like real tiny. So she said yes. Long story short, fast forward, she has all of these midterms that she had to study for her break. So she it was so amazing. She's only 15. She figured it out to where she was able. Her thing was, I told my grandma months ago I was going to help her with meatballs. I'm helping her with meatballs. I don't care what test I have. So she
Yes.
figured it out what time she had to go to bed or wake up or whatever. And she still got to my mom's and helped her with the meatballs. And that was like, and my mom made a big fuss. And I was like, part of that though, you taught us, like, if you're going to commit to something, you have to follow through. If not, your
Yes.
word means nothing.
Nothing.
That might be how me and you ended up together because we both, if we say we're doing something, we do it. If you have
Yes.
a partner or somebody, whether it's a partner in a relationship, like a marriage or a girlfriend, boyfriend, or like us two, friendships, things like that, you have to both be willing to
Yes.
follow through. If one
Yes.
person doesn't follow through, it's just not going to work.
And in every relationship, there's a level of commitment and obligation to one another. And with that, because of course our springboard is always relationships, that I give you the grace to be human. You give me the grace to be human. Life happens. We never want to say, oh, we live in a cookie cutter world and everything's perfect. No, life happens. And sometimes it takes you by surprise. So you've got to allow for that. And as you say, give grace for that. That it's
Give
like,
grace
okay,
for that.
oh, I've got to do this. The same thing, it was like we were supposed to meet another time. Oh, let's say, but we figure it out. We never just say, oh, forget about it. Let's not know, because we know that this is something that God has called us to do, to help. Like I said, even if we help one person, then you are the person we were called to. And we celebrate that, and it's just so funny. So as we endeavor to just break through this new barrier, that you can always do it together, that you're never
Yep,
alone. You're never
you're
alone.
never alone. No, and if you feel alone, then you're not with the right group.
Exactly. Find your group. Find your group.
Find us, we'll be there for you.
Yeah.
Right? There you go. We'll
Yeah.
be there for you. I think that was a very good session that we talked about. I think we talked about a
Always.
lot today.
Always. Yes.
Let's be like full, honest with everybody. So last night we said, what are we going to talk about tomorrow? And I said, let's just wake up tomorrow and we'll know. And I feel like we did. We got on
Yes.
and we
Yes.
know. And we covered a bunch of little things, but they
Yes.
all relate to each other. And I think to pull it all together, it's about now being the right time for one. Like there's never going to be, even with like having babies and stuff, people are like, I want to wait till the right time. Like there's never, like, now is the time. You figure it out. If you really want to do something, you'll figure it out. So if you hold yourself accountable to the goals that you set for yourself.
Yes.
So you have to hold yourself accountable.
Yes.
Right. So I think that was good. And then we also tied it into how people all around the world look at it differently too. I couldn't imagine being in a different part of the world where they don't have the same things that we have. And here we're talking about New Year's resolutions. And for them, they want to make it to New Year's. Do you know what I
Come
mean?
on. Come on. That's so
So
true.
I think we have to like put things into perspective. And sometimes instead of
Yes.
just staying so closed in our own little world, we
Hmm.
have to think about how do people do it other places. And, do we really understand what it is that we actually do have and to
Yes.
be
Yes.
grateful
Yes.
for it?
So my recap was, of course, just be intentional. Be
Intentional.
intentional. Focus on what you really want, what you really desire. It's one of the questions that sometimes I'll start a session with, as far as, what do you really want to do if there were no limitations in your life? So there
Mm.
was no money concerns, there was no fear factor. What would you really do? That's the challenge that I want to have for you, because even going into 2024, that I want us to be intentional. That I want to say, oh, I would do this if I had the support from my husband. Oh, I would do it if my family believed in me. Oh, I would do it if I had the right money. Oh, I would do it if the right ethnicity. Oh, I would do it if I had the right family. No. Who said you can't do it?
I
I
always
need
hear
you to
I'm
be.
too old. I'm too old. That's
Oh
bull.
yeah, that's another one. Yeah.
I'm too
Who
old. I'm
said?
too old. Or I should have done
They
that 20 years ago. It's too
Yes,
late now.
they
I'm like,
said,
no, it's
they
not.
said, they said, we want to shut the mouths of the they sayer, the
Hmm.
gainsayers, the people that says you can't do it. Let's prove to them in 2024 that we can arise together.
Thank you so much for joining another episode of She Rises. We changed our name to She Rises with a Z so that we could copyright it and get our own website. So now we have a website, She Rises with a Z.com. It is not up and running yet, but it will be shortly. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, and share. By liking and subscribing to the videos, you really do help us with the algorithm in YouTube, and we appreciate it greatly. We want to reach as many people as we can. Have a blessed day.